First, a pilot eye view of the 1955 Farnborough show, with the giant wings of Britain's big bombers dominating the scene. This was the 16th display by the Society of British Aircraft Constructors, and as always, it was a display that people from all over the world wanted to see. In the course of Farnborough Week, they came in their hundreds of thousands from scores of countries. Interest in British aircraft construction seemed to be keener than ever, but that's not surprising in view of the forward policy of British designers. Among distinguished visitors to the display was America's General Grunter, Supreme Commander Allied Powers in Europe. The First Sea Lord, Admiral Lord Mountbatten. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, himself an expert pilot, had flown over. The Italian Foreign Minister was another of many important overseas visitors. And here's Mrs. Pundit, India's High Commissioner. Everyone who went to the show certainly found plenty to see and examine. The assembly of aircraft was comprehensive, from the supersonic experimental to the brand new utility. Military aircraft were prominent, with emphasis on attack. All shapes and sizes were on view, from a new look in fighters to the latest V-bomber. Yes, details of aerodynamic design provided a fascinating study at the static display. One of the most easily spotted of the aircraft being the Victor with its lofty tail unit. Then, streaking out of the clouds, the Comet opens the fly past. Development work on this aircraft is leading to the new Comet 4. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Avon jets, this aircraft will fly from London to Johannesburg via Cairo and Nairobi in just over 15 hours. Scottish Aviation's twin Pioneer can take off in less than 100 yards. This new version of the Pioneer is a 14 to 16-seater transport with a speed range of 50 to 180 miles an hour. It's capable of one-man operation, but has provision for a second crew member and flies stage distances of up to 500 miles. The twin Pioneer shows its extreme handiness by its short, slow-speed landing. The brilliant success of the Vickers Viscount is well known. This magnificent aircraft opened the world's first scheduled turboprop airliner service. Nearly 250 have been ordered by 28 different operators in Britain and overseas. The Bristol Britannia made a most impressive showing at Farnborough. Powered by 4 Proteus turboprop engines, the Britannia 100 is designed to carry 90 passengers over Commonwealth routes. A later version will fly from London to New York non-stop. Now, in full production, it should have a great future. The Handley Page Herald is a newcomer to Farnborough. It's a 36 to 44-seater medium-range transport with a cruising speed of 200 knots. 29 have already been ordered by 3 operators, one of which is Queensland Airlines. Helicopters showing their paces included the Bristol Type 173. This is a twin-rotor tandem engaged in flight research. Forward or backwards, it makes no difference to the 173. Fairey's new Ultra Light is designed as an army spotter or for runabout duties. As in the case of the Ultra Light, so in another new Fairey product, the Jet Gyrodyne, a research helicopter, the rotor is driven by compressed air jets at the blade tips. In cruising flight, most of the Gyrodyne's power is transferred to 2 propellers on the stub wings. The Saunders Roe Skeeter 6 is a 2-seater light helicopter designed for civil use. It's powered by a Gypsy Major engine and has a maximum speed of 100 miles an hour. Helicopters, of course, are coming more and more into the picture. Sir Anthony Eden adopted this most direct and convenient form of transport when he came to inspect the Farnborough show. The Prime Minister was starting a tour of service establishments, and he made a point of getting plenty of close-ups here. Presently, putting on a flying suit, the Premier prepared for a trip in an Avro Vulcan. This aircraft is the world's first delta-wing 4-jet bomber. It's due to enter squadron service in RAF Bomber Command next year. During his flight, Sir Anthony himself handled the controls and is reported to have been greatly impressed by this great and formidable machine. The Vulcan has flown at over 50,000 feet near the speed of sound. Avro test pilot Roland Falk, flying over Farnborough, put the giant bomber into a perfect roll as if it were a fighter. A spectacular achievement and a spectacular machine. The Avro Shackleton MR3 flew over with 3 of her 4 engines feathered. Short Seamews, 2-seater light anti-submarine aircraft, flew past in formation. And here, installed under an Ashton, is the Rolls-Royce Conway bypass engine, a major advance in gas turbine technology. Now the de Havilland Jaren, claimed to be the most powerful type-tested engine yet announced, mounted experimentally in the Sperry. One of Britain's already famous V-bombers is the Handley Page Victor in super priority production. Another is the Vickers Valiant. These long-range high-speed bombers in service with the RAF have already set a number of records. Singapore to Darwin at an average speed of 518 miles an hour, and London to Baghdad at over 523. The Avro CF-100 is a 2-seater long-range all-weather fighter. It was designed and built in Canada and is in service with the RCAF for Arctic defense. Here's some attractive evidence of how the CF-100 handles. Spectators presently had a particular thrill when they saw the English Electric P-1, the first British aircraft to exceed the speed of sound in level flight. Now Squadron Leader Tennant prepares to take up the Folland Nat-1, a development of the Midge. This lightweight supersonic fighter makes 2 notable claims: that it is only about 1/3 of the weight of a conventional fighter, and that it can be produced in about 1/5 of the time. The British Ministry of Supply has ordered a number of Nats for development flying. An increasingly common practice with high-speed aircraft is followed by the Nat, the use of a parachute brake when landing. The Fairey Delta II has an elongated nose, which can be lowered to give the pilot a good view forward. In this case, it's being raised, and the pilot takes off with the nose in normal position. The Delta II is yet another research aircraft probing into the future. It's capable of supersonic speed in level flight and has exceptionally thin wings. These impressions of its flying demonstration seem to indicate that it will do anything demanded of it. Coming into land, the nose is lowered. And once again, parachutes slow down the landing run. Now another Delta, the Gloucester Javelin. This long-range, all-weather, radar-equipped fighter is designed to carry a most advanced electronic and guided weapon system. Powered by two Armstrong-Siddeley Sapphire jets, the Javelin is supersonic. Finally, to round off this great show, the Hawker Hunter. The Hunter F4 can be equipped with plastic drop tanks, 100-gallon tanks that don't affect the aircraft's handling qualities. It also has special attachments for underwing weapons. The two-seater trainer is a new version. On order for the RAF, it's undergoing intensive development. Earlier Hunters have already completed their first year of squadron service with the RAF. Meanwhile, Hunter export orders have passed the £120 million mark, surely a great tribute to its quality. Undoubtedly, the flying display by these British fighters thrilled all who were watching. The formation roaring overhead was certainly a highlight of this Farnborough flypast. It's 10 years now since the British aircraft industry decided to hold its annual show at the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough. Similar displays had been held since 1932, but it's at Farnborough that the show has attained its full stature. Size and variety alone distinguish it as the largest display of its kind in the world, and that's no small achievement for a national display. But it's a national display with an international interest, for Farnborough has become an established link between the industry and world export markets. This year, a record number of overseas visitors came to look at this export shop window, over 7,000 of them. Already in 1958, almost 50% more of the industry's products had been sold overseas than in the same period in 1957, itself a record year. Let's have a more detailed look at the aircraft on show. The Westland Westminster in its first public appearance. One of the largest helicopter projects ever undertaken in Britain, this version is an aerial crane for heavy loads. There's tremendous overseas interest in the Fairey Rotodyne. The first order from Canada could well mean another success story like that of the Viscount. Our cameraman gets his share of the reflected glory as he photographs Britain's most successful civil airliner. Now here's something which isn't yet for sale, but which is attracting widespread world interest. It's the short SC-1, a research vertical takeoff machine. It's a design to study the transition between hovering and forward flight. A significant machine pointing to the future development of flight. Farnborough's a flying show, and I expect you're waiting to see some, highlighting the service's contribution, Seahawks of the Royal Navy. flying teamwork of these massed displays is one of the most memorable features of the show. Jumping grasshoppers must have inspired this bouncing baby, the Fairy Ultra Light, a two-seater runabout. Its handiness is shown by the ease with which it takes off and lands on a moving lorry. With its first flight only a month or so earlier, the Saunders Roe P531 is Britain's latest helicopter. It's a five-seater general-purpose machine. Another Saunders Roe product, the Skeeter, seen here with the 531, has been bought by West Germany. The Westland Wessex, in production for the Royal Navy, is a very advanced anti-submarine helicopter. Have you ever seen a helicopter do this before? Here's the Westminster from the same stable. Looking like some predatory dragonfly, it's powered by two Napier Eland turbines. This is the utility version, which can lift a load of over 6 tons. As a passenger or troop transport, it has seating for 46, a really neat piece of engineering. Another Napier unit, the Gazelle, powers this new helicopter, the Bristol 192. Mechanics cover the air intakes, leaving only one power unit in action. Both engines being synchronized, it's possible to drive the two rotors on one engine. As Europe's largest military helicopter, this safety factor is a big consideration. One of the brightest stars in the Farnborough firmament is really two machines in one. Fabulous is a well-worn word, but the Fairy Rotodyne gives it a new significance as the world's first vertical takeoff airliner. With the rotor idling, it flies like a fixed-wing aircraft. For takeoff and landing, compressed air from the two turboprop engines is ducted to pressure jets on the rotor blades. It's among the most dramatic machines ever shown at Farnborough. More conventional, but with its own specialized contribution, is the Auster Alpha. Here, fitted out as a crop sprayer, this low-price aircraft is adaptable to a variety of uses in a variety of climates. Hunting aircraft present the latest version of their Jet Provost, in production for the Royal Air Force as the world's first basic trainer for jet pilots. By replacing initial training on piston engine planes, jet pilots reach a far higher standard faster. Here's a slow roll by numbers. The docile Provost is on the pilot's side all the time. Another easy handler is the Folland Gnat, a single-seater lightweight designed as an interceptor and strike fighter. The Gnat features ease of maintenance and cheap running costs. In fact, it's a jet fighter on a shoestring. Another service machine is the Fairy Gannet for the Royal Navy. In this version, the lump under the fuselage conceals a radar scanner. The plane will be used from aircraft carriers to extend their defensive radar system. By closing down one half of its turboprop engine, its flying endurance is increased. Now let's step up the speed with the well-named English Electric Lightning, or P1 as it used to be called. It's an all-purpose fighter ordered by the Royal Air Force. Its Rolls-Royce Avon jets give it a top speed of around 1,500 miles an hour, while it can be fitted with a rocket engine for high-altitude flying. Fleet Air Arm scimitars in action. Hawker Hunters have been adopted by the air forces of Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, Peru, Iraq, Holland, Switzerland, and India. This is a Mark 8 two-seater, a special version ordered for the Royal Navy. Our cameraman catches a close-up of a Javelin Mark 7. Although a fighter, it carries a heavy armament of cannon, rockets and fire-streak guided missiles. Guided missiles are a priority in Britain's defence programme, so naturally they're featured at Farnborough. The Bristol Bloodhound is a surface-to-air anti-aircraft weapon. With its clutch of booster rockets, it looks formidable enough even here on its launching platform. But we can get a far more impressive idea of its capabilities if we watch a film of Bloodhound on the scent. The boosters are discarded and the Thor ramjet engines take over. A radar beam projected from the ground is reflected from the target to a receiver in the missile. Bloodhound homes on this reflected signal. Here's the result. Quite a performance, especially as this missile had no warhead. Black Knight is a ballistic rocket designed for research purposes. During this Farnborough show, we were to hear the dramatic announcement reporting that Black Knight's first flight in Australia had been an unqualified success. The single-stage rocket had shot into space right up to satellite height. One purpose of the exercise was to study re-entry from outer space. Now for Britain's latest warplane, the first of a new type. It's the NA-39, and as you'd expect, it caused a great stir among the Farnborough audience. It's a low-level naval strike aircraft, powered by two Jaran Junior turbojets, and was designed as a carrier-borne aircraft. In contrast, and further stressing the variety of planes at Farnborough, here's Hunting Percival's President, a passenger and freight transport. Britain's supremacy in the civil airline field is largely due to machines like the Vickers Viscount, the world's first turboprop airliner. The Viscount's success story is written in many languages, for some 350 are in service in 30 countries all over the world. By all accounts, another success story is about to begin, with de Havilland Comet as the title. No civil airliner has undergone a more intensive testing program. This version is the 3B. Notice the effect of reverse thrust from the four Rolls-Royce Avon jets as the huge airliner touches down. It uses very little runway, surprisingly little for so heavy a machine. Now, the Comet 4. Soon after the Farnborough show, a Comet 4 completed the trip from Hong Kong to London in just over 16 hours, a record for the distance. The Vulcan V bomber, another big fella. But watch how responsive it is. The Vulcan was the world's first four-jet delta wing bomber, and it's a mainstay of Britain's V-bomber defence force. This latest version, the B-2, gives greater range, altitude and performance. It's armed here with the powerful standoff bomb, which can be launched from well outside hostile defences. Another of the V-bombers, and the biggest of them all, is the Handley Page Victor. It certainly looks businesslike, to judge from the sinister expression on its face. As a finale to this Farnborough show, let's join the famous Black Arrows of Treble One Squadron, a Royal Air Force team flying Hawker Hunters. 22 aircraft looping the loop. If you don't believe it, watch the ground turning over. So another Farnborough show is over. But for the industry who presented it, another year's work lies ahead to improve the breed. There's a great challenge to face. But this is a great industry. This is Farnborough, 1959, the 20th flying display and exhibition organised by the Society of British Aircraft Constructors. Farnborough in southern England, the largest and most famous air show in the world. It reflects the growth of a whole industry, and its success is the success of British aircraft. One of the fascinations of this industry is its variety. One newcomer isn't really a plane at all, but as a revolution in transport, the hovercraft is attracting great interest at home and abroad. It may one day be as much in demand as the Viscount, which has earned a premier position on the air routes of the world. There's always a tremendous overseas interest in Farnborough, but never before has the show attracted so many visitors from abroad. Their numbers reflect the importance of the industry in world markets. Indeed, the first 8 months of the year had set an export record. And there was every sign that 1959 would be an all-time high. Since the war, overseas buyers have spent nearly £900 million on British aviation products. And exports are now running at the rate of £3.5 million a week. Here's the well-known Hawker Hunter. Besides earning £200 million worth of overseas orders, it highlights another significant function of the industry, that is to provide weapons to fulfill Britain's defence programme. The missile display is a forceful reminder of the industry's rapid response to this programme. The English electric Thunderbird, an anti-aircraft weapon in service with the Army. Another anti-aircraft missile, the Bristol Bloodhound, is playing a key role in the United Kingdom's air defence. Bloodhound is claimed to have the longest range of any missile of its type in the world. The Black Knight research rocket was designed by the Royal Aircraft Establishment in collaboration with the builders Saunders Roe. It's a rocket for high-altitude research. Now the flying display itself. The show lasts for 7 days, and the daily climax begins with the aircraft being towed out and made ready for flight. To watch a flying display at Farnborough is an experience few can forget. The variety of machines, the impeccable timing of their performance, the stopwatch regularity of takeoff and landing. There's always a tremendous thrill of anticipation about it. Over 350,000 visitors saw this year's display, and they had perfect weather for it too. First in the programme is the Comet, and de Havilland's chief test pilot, John Cunningham, goes aboard to show off the 4B version to the waiting crowds. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Avon jets, its takeoff run is exceptionally short. Let's go upstairs and get alongside the Comet in the air. This is one advantage of seeing Farnborough on film. Wearing the colourful new livery of British European Airways, it will start operating early in 1960. The standard Comet 4 is already in service with BOAC and other airlines. The use of reverse thrust enables it to operate from quite small airfields. We spotted the Crown Prince of Nepal among spectators watching another jet, the pocket-size Folland Gnat, a two-seat training version of this lightweight fighter. Incidentally, this prototype had only flown for 10 hours before its Farnborough appearance. It's a development of the single-seat fighter beyond. Another jet trainer is the two-seater version of the English Electric Lightning. This machine first flew in the spring of 1959, and it has the same performance as the fighter version. In other words, it's fully supersonic. The single-seat fighter furthest from the camera has been ordered in quantity for the Royal Air Force. Blackburn Aircraft's contribution in the transonic field is the NA-39, a two-seater strike aircraft for the Navy designed to give the high speed and accurate control needed for low-level attack. In its class, it's been described as ahead of any other aircraft in the world. Always a Farnborough highlight, formation aerobatics by the services. A twinkle roll, a new maneuver by scimitar jets, introduces the pilots of the Royal Navy, the men of 807 Squadron. Let's follow the fighter bombers in a formation roll, flying as if linked by invisible threads, while earth and sky revolve around. Now have another look at the hovercraft. Floating on a cushion of air supplied from an Alvis Leonides piston engine, it glides over land or water without touching the surface. Its potential as a cross-channel or river ferry has brought many inquiries from overseas, and its designers are hoping to follow this prototype with a version weighing 40 tons. In striking contrast, here is the tremendous power potential of the V-bomber. Watch this fantastic takeoff of the Avro Vulcan. This version, the B-2, is a development of the world's first four-jet Delta wing bomber. After a slow fly past, its four Bristol Siddeley Olympus jets hurl the huge machine into the sky. From jets to turboprops, the Handley Page Herald with well-tried Dart engines making a spectacular picture. It's a medium-range passenger or freight transport. As for the brand new airliners at Farnborough, the largest is the Vickers Vanguard. This machine has made a tremendous impact both at home and abroad. The reasons aren't hard to find. Vickers claim that its economy with Rolls-Royce Tyne engines could cut many passenger fares by 50%. Its design is the result of their experience with over 400 Viscounts. The whole thing was neatly summed up by the president of Trans-Canada Airlines, who have ordered 20. As good as the Viscount, but twice as big. Another of 1959's newcomers is the Argosy freighter coach. a new design from Armstrong Whitworth for the rapidly expanding air freight market. With its Dart turboprops, it can operate from almost any existing airfield, and that's a must for any multi-purpose machine. The Argosy can carry nearly 14 tons of freight or 83 passengers. It can be used as an air ferry for cars and passengers, and there's a military version which has been adopted by the RAF. In whatever capacity, its great feature is economy. Another machine with a variety of uses is the Fairey Rotodyne, famous as the world's first vertical takeoff airliner. Here's a Rotodyne's angle on the Farnborough scene. Down below, a visitor from Bahrain looks on as the Rotodyne goes through its paces. It combines the merits of helicopter and fixed-wing airliner, vertical takeoff and landing, and forward flight at nearly 200 miles an hour. The production version will carry 65 passengers. Now, what's all this? A cabin full of nurses gives a vivid example of the capacity of this remarkable machine. The Bristol 192 is a twin-engine helicopter in production for the Royal Air Force. In an emergency, both rotors can be driven by one engine. Here it puts on a weightlifting act with the Bristol Bloodhound on the leash. Led by the Westminster Flying Crane, here's Westland's helicopter cavalcade. Research into vertical flight has produced some great advances. The short SC-1 is a delta wing research machine powered by 5 Rolls-Royce jets. It uses the thrust of 4 of them to give vertical lift. The other one drives it along. The lifting jets can also be inclined to give a forward thrust or directed forwards to act as a brake. It's the first machine of its type in the world. Now back to the runway where Hawker hunters are lining up for one of Farnborough's aerobatic displays. These are the men and machines of Treble 1 Squadron Royal Air Force, known collectively and expressively as the Black Arrows. The traditions of the Death or Glory boys, the trailblazers of World War II, have been handed on to the pilots of the jet age. Their skill and daring are now combined in a display to thrill the Farnborough crowds. The hunters dive in a spectacular bomb burst over the field. And we reach the finale of this Farnborough flypast. Another chapter of aviation progress written in the sky.